Minister, as you know, in the early noughties there was a crisis about rural development, access to hills and so on, and a lot of work was done on it. There seems to have been a long hiatus then in the early parts of the last decade where very little happened. I was wondering what progress has been made on rural recreation and how we're going to develop this absolutely phenomenal asset we have. And, for example, have you resolved the issue of access to mountains in an organised way as had been piloted back in 2008?
And thank you, Deputy, for raising this. And first of all, Deputy, can I just acknowledge the work that you put in to setting this up when you were Minister in this department. COVID-19 has reminded us all of the importance of outdoor recreation amenities for our physical and mental well-being. My department provides substantial funding for outdoor recreation infrastructure through programmes such as the Outdoor Recreation Infrastructure Scheme, the Walk Scheme and the Rural Regeneration and Development Fund. My department also works with state agencies such as Kilcha and Fáilte Ireland, as well as other stakeholders, to facilitate the strategic development of the sector. Corlean na Tuatha, the Countryside Council, is central to this work as it brings the outdoor recreation stakeholders together in an advisory role. In June of 2019, Corla was given a new mandate to strengthen its role in the development of the outdoor recreation sector. Dr Liam Toomey was appointed as chair of Corla and has driven the new mandate with the support of the council members. Earlier this year, the group commenced work on the development of a new national outdoor recreation strategy to provide a vision and framework for the growth of the sector, and I will bring this strategy to government when it is completed next year. A range of other initiatives are being advanced by the Council, which will be captured in the annual report of the group, which will be agreed at the next meeting of Corla. My department is also establishing an interdepartmental committee to help progress recommendations coming from Corla, and this group will be particularly important in the development and implementation of the National Outdoor Recreation Strategy. My department continues to provide substantial support for the sector, with expenditure of approximately 11 million on the Outdoor Recreation Infrastructure Scheme this year. At the end of last year, an additional 10 trails were approved for inclusion in the Walk Scheme. An external review of the scheme is also expected to be completed in the new year, and this will pave the way for the further expansion of the scheme to 80 trails. I'll come back to you with insurance.
Thank you, Minister. And Éamon Ó Cuív.
Minister, the genesis of setting up Corlean na Tuatha and the most urgent problem that it faced in its early years was the whole issue of access to farmers' land, to hill land particularly, and to mountains, because all of that is owned by somebody. There is no, what we call communities, shared ownership land. It's not common, it's not public land, unless it belongs to some organisation such as Quilcha. My apologies. Therefore, what progress has been made, because it's not mentioned in your reply, to build a scheme that recognises the rights of farmers and, on the other hand, gives widespread access to the hills of Ireland, because we don't need to build the hills, they're there, the mountains are there, but people want to access them, they want to be sure they can access them, that they be welcome, that, on the other hand, the farmers want to be assured that there be no dogs in the hills, that that the fences won't be damaged, and that the policy of leave no trace will be followed. So, Minister, there was a pilot scheme set up in 2008. There was an indemnity to be given to the farmers against the very off chance that somebody tried to take a case because they slipped on a rock or something on the mountain. Minister, what progress has been made in ensuring access to the hills? And is it intended, also as the second part of my question, is it intended to extend the trail scheme again this coming year? Because, again, that was in abeyance for 10 years.
And Tara?
Well, Deputy, just to say that we have been working very hard with the local authorities to develop a pilot insurance scheme, the issue of the indemnity has been a long-running issue, as you know, for farmers in upland areas. To introduce an indemnity scheme, it was far too complex to provide a blanket indemnity, we did get advice from the AG on it, and it would look like we were going to have to put amendments through a number of different pieces of legislation, and it was getting very, very complicated, and that's what the problem was. So instead, we are working with the local authorities, and we're looking at rolling out a pilot insurance scheme. So it'll have the same effect, only it's an insurance policy, for example, it would involve the introduction of an insurance policy in the McGillicuddy Reeks in the first instance, which might then be expanded to other mountain access project areas, for example Mount Gable and in Galway, and it's hoped that new mountain access project areas would then be developed with support from my department. And I know that we've rolled out 10 new trails, and we're looking at developing more.
Thank you, Minister. Éamon Ó Cuív.
Minister, you say that the local authority might take out an insurance. Now, you might clarify how that's going to stop somebody suing the landowner as well as the local authority who has got the insurance. Because the idea of the indemnity scheme was to indemnify you against being sued, because there is very, very little chance of a successful claim for somebody coming to harm at a hill through no fault of the farmer. They'd have to show reckless disregard, I think is what's in the law. And there are cases, as you know, in Wicklow and up in Donegal that have gone to the Supreme Court where they have ruled against the plaintiff and in favour of the defendants. And one was a state defendant. So the chance of a successful claim on a hill because of something that might happen are very, very small. The problem wasn't that you'd succeed. The problem was that somebody might take the case and that a farmer would be part of a court case and have to put a lot of resources into fighting another case that would fail. So can you assure me, under whatever you're proposing now, that that's going to deal with that specific problem, and that is not the cost of getting the insurance? That was never a problem because most farmers have insurance. It was, how are you going to stop farmers being enjoined in a case and having to go through all the rigmarole of defending a case that will never succeed?
Reply.
Deputy, the one thing I want to ensure, and I know you'll agree with me, is that we don't want to give the farmers any problems in this space. This is, the farmers are allowing people access onto their lands. We want to try and facilitate and accommodate it. But I do believe that the most stakeholders in the sector share the view that a public liability policy has the potential to deliver the same benefits as an indemnity scheme, but it can be introduced much more quickly. And I think the focus on the indemnity scheme may have somewhat distracted from the development of an alternative solution linked to insurance. So, as I said, my officials for some time now have been examining how best to introduce a scheme to identify to indemnify private landowners, particularly in the upland areas. But it is a complex issue, and they have looked at it and they feel that this is the best way forward. But the point I'm making to you, and as I said, I know you'll agree with me, the point is that we don't involve the farmers in this, that they won't have any liability. We don't want that to happen.
Thank you, Minister.